Sana Yousaf was a bright young woman, only 17 years old. She was known to many through her engaging presence on TikTok, a platform where she shared glimpses of her life and creativity. Like many young people her age, she used social media to connect, express herself, and build a community around her. Her energy and youthfulness were apparent in her online interactions, drawing in followers who enjoyed her content. She was a daughter, a friend, and a young individual with dreams and aspirations for her future. A future that was tragically and senselessly stolen from her. Her presence was a source of joy for those who followed her journey online. The news of Sana's murder sent shockwaves far beyond her immediate circle. It was a brutal act that ended a promising life far too soon. People across Pakistan and even internationally were stunned by the violence of her death. The reality that someone so young, someone with a familiar online presence, could be a victim of such a heinous crime was deeply unsettling for many. It highlighted a vulnerability that many young women face, even those who seem to have a public voice. The circumstances surrounding her death were deeply disturbing, painting a grim picture of the dangers that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life, particularly for women. Her story resonated profoundly, especially with young people who are active on social media platforms. They saw in Sana a reflection of themselves or their friends, vibrant, expressive, and navigating the complexities of an online world. The tragedy brought forth a raw understanding of the potential dangers that can accompany visibility, particularly for young women in societies where their freedom and choices are often scrutinized. For many, her death was not just a news headline, it was a personal blow, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the pervasive nature of violence against women. The impact was palpable, stirring conversations about safety, online culture, and societal attitudes. Initially, the overwhelming response was one of profound grief and disbelief. Friends, followers, and even strangers expressed their sorrow for Sana and her family. There was an outpouring of sympathy, a collective mourning for a life filled with potential that would now go unfulfilled. Many people shared messages of condolence, remembering her for the joy she brought to their screens. This wave of sadness underscored the human connection that people felt towards her, even if they only knew her through her online persona. It was a moment where the digital community came together to acknowledge a shared loss and to question the circumstances that led to such a tragic end. As news of Sana Yousaf's tragic death spread across social media, a wide spectrum of reactions began to surface. Many people expressed their heartfelt condolences and deep sadness. They shared messages of support for her family and called for justice to be served. These individuals recognized the profound loss of a young life and the horrific nature of the crime committed against her. Their words were filled with empathy, reflecting a genuine sense of shock and sorrow. Many used their platforms to highlight the injustice and to mourn the vibrant individual whose life had been so cruelly cut short. This outpouring of support was a testament to human compassion in the face of tragedy. However, alongside these expressions of grief and demands for accountability, a darker, more disturbing narrative began to emerge. Some individuals chose to react with cruelty and insensitivity, shockingly blaming Sana for her own murder. These comments were deeply unsettling, revealing a callous disregard for the victim and her suffering. Instead of focusing on the perpetrator and the act of violence, these voices sought to find fault with Sana herself. This cruel response added another layer of pain for those mourning her loss and for anyone who believes in justice and compassion. It was a stark reminder of the harshness that can exist within online spaces. The negative comments often targeted Sana's online presence, her choices, or her lifestyle, as if these factors could somehow justify the violence she endured. Some questioned why she was active on TikTok, while others made baseless assumptions about her character. This victim-blaming rhetoric is a dangerous and harmful phenomenon. It attempts to shift the responsibility for a crime from the person who committed it to the person who suffered from it. Such comments not only dishonor the memory of the victim, but also contribute to a culture where violence against women is excused or downplayed. The cruelty of these remarks was truly shocking to many observers. These contrasting reactions exposed a disturbing rot within parts of our society. While many mourned and called for justice, others revealed a deeply ingrained misogyny and a tendency to dehumanize individuals, especially women who have a public or online presence. The fact that some people felt comfortable publicly blaming a murder victim highlighted a profound lack of empathy and a distorted moral compass. It showed how easily some can turn against the vulnerable, particularly when hiding behind the anonymity of a screen. This duality in public response was a painful illustration of the societal challenges we still face in addressing violence and victim blaming. An online presence, while offering connection and expression, can unfortunately lead to a strange form of dehumanization. When people share parts of their lives publicly, whether through social media, blogging, or other digital platforms, they can sometimes be perceived as characters rather than real human beings with feelings and vulnerabilities. This perceived distance can make it easier for some onlookers to detach, to judge harshly, or even to feel a sense of ownership over the individual's life. The constant exposure can, paradoxically, make the person seem less real, more like an object for public consumption and critique, stripping away their inherent humanity. This sense of detachment can fuel the dangerous notion that because someone is visible online, they are somehow less deserving of privacy, respect, or even safety. Some people may mistakenly believe that by putting themselves out there, individuals invite scrutiny and criticism, and in the most extreme cases, even violence. This is a deeply flawed and dangerous way of thinking. Sharing one's life online does not equate to consenting to abuse, harassment, or harm. It does not diminish a person's right to live free from fear and violence. The public nature of an online persona should never be used as an excuse to lessen the severity of crimes committed against them. In Sana Yousaf's case, it is possible that her visibility as a TikTok star was twisted by some to rationalize the horrific act committed against her, or to justify the cruel victim blaming that followed. Those who engaged in such blame may have felt emboldened by her online presence, using it as a pretext to pass judgment on her character or lifestyle without any real knowledge or understanding. Her digital footprint, meant for connection and expression, was instead weaponized by some to deflect blame from the perpetrator and place it onto her. This is a cruel injustice, compounding the tragedy of her death with unfair and unfounded accusations. It is crucial to remember that an online presence does not make anyone less human or less deserving of empathy and protection. Sana Yousaf was a young woman with a life full of hopes, dreams, and the right to safety, just like anyone else. The platform she used to express herself should not be a factor in how we view her tragic murder or the culpability of her killer. Blaming her for the violence she suffered because she was visible online is a profound misjudgment and a disservice to her memory. We must challenge this tendency to dehumanize individuals based on their online activities and affirm their inherent worth and rights. Sana Yousaf's tragic murder is not an isolated incident. Rather, it is a heartbreaking example of a much larger issue of violence against women. This problem is pervasive globally and is a significant concern in Pakistan. Femicide, the killing of women and girls because of their gender, continues to claim lives and shatter families. The societal attitudes that allow such violence to persist are rooted in misogyny, inequality, and a culture that devalues women's lives and autonomy. Sana's story forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths and the urgent need for systemic change to protect women and girls from harm. Victim blaming in any form is unequivocally wrong and profoundly harmful. It shifts the burden of responsibility from the perpetrator, the one who chose to commit the violent act, onto the victim, who merely existed. This inflicts further emotional trauma on victims and their families, but also perpetuates a dangerous culture of silence and impunity. When victims are blamed, it discourages others from coming forward, fearing similar judgment. It communicates that the victim's actions or choices are somehow responsible for the violence, which is a dangerous and false narrative that protects abusers. We must actively speak out against all forms of violence and misogyny, whether they occur online or offline. It is our collective responsibility to challenge harmful attitudes and behaviors. This means supporting women who face threats, harassment, and violence, and believing them when they share their experiences. We need to foster environments where women feel safe and empowered. This includes educating ourselves about consent, respect, and gender equality. Every voice raised against injustice contributes to a larger chorus demanding change. Ultimately, our goal must be to build a society where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. This requires conscious effort from each of us to challenge the norms that enable violence. Let us honor Sana Yousaf's memory not just with sorrow, but with a renewed commitment to creating a safer, more just world. By working together, by fostering empathy, and by holding perpetrators accountable, we can hope to prevent such tragedies from happening again. Let us strive for a future where every individual can live freely and safely without fear of violence or blame.